what was nice for Allan, and you got to go back a few years when I had the phone call from Allan Grice in '87 to ask if I'd like to drive at Bathurst. Well, the Rovers had already finished then. '86 they wouldn't let me do it. '87 it was finished, I was able to go. And all I knew that I was going to front up in Sydney, I was going to be met by a guy called Ian Maudsley, and I'm taken home and looked after and taken up to Bathurst. And I was going to drive the Bob Jane car. Now, Gricey, yes, I'd been there with a Jaguar. As far as I was concerned then, would I ever have got the chance to go back to Bathurst to race again? I don't really know. You can never pre-plan anything. Gricey gave me that opportunity.
Coming down Conrod Straight to prepare for his lap in Hardy's Heroes, Allan Grice, the 1986 champion in the rebuilt Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore, goes across to take the green flag. He's underway. A miracle this car is even on the racetrack today. Sweeps it beneath the left-hander. And of course, Win Percy almost totally destroyed this car on Friday in qualifying. Coming out past the Castrol sand trap, got it sideways, slammed across the racetrack into the wall. The car's destroyed, but fortunately the TAFE boys here at Bathurst, along with a very, very good team, the Roadways team has been able to put the car back on the track this morning.
If anyone can manhandle a car around the circuit, it's Allan Grice. And they've done a fantastic job, as you said, to get it back in shape just to run in Hardy's Heroes.
Picked a wheel up, a left wheel there on the curb. And listen to the crowd on the top of Mount Panorama.
And Gricey was the only man in the pit lane to be sitting there with the electric blankets, the tyre warmers sitting on the tyre before this run. And that's his ploy for setting fastest lap in Hardy's Heroes this year.
Man who just missed pole position last year, made the front row of the grid, and of course went on to take the 1000k in Giro. Here he comes down to Caltex Chase, really hauling it down into here. Car wobbling around just a fraction. The left-hander in Caltex, and then over the curb there through the right-hander, down to the Bridgestone Bridge, a little off the racetrack there, that will cost him. And Grice, across the line, the checkered flag.
The boys did an excellent job, both the TAFE guys and my own people. They've done a superb job, really. I mean, the motor car's new from the glass forward. It'll go a little better, you know. We'll get it tracking a little better than it is, but they've done a superb job.
10 seconds away from the start of the James Hardy 1087 World Touring Car Championship. Racing in the 87 Classic and getting away smartly. On the inside was Andy Rouse. Here's Grice making a run. And Perkins down the inside, and Grice looking for it into the first corner.
And Woodward missed the jump. Leadbits, rather.
Terrible start from him in car 7. There he is behind Peter McLeod in the mobile car number 10 as the field streaks up Mountain Straight. A dreadful start from Needswitz.
Beautiful shots as they head up Mountain Straight, bound for the right-hander at Bridgestone Corner.
Andy Rouse, the leader, as they press the top and head towards Bridgestone, the right-hander. Very quick, fast, sweeping right-hander. Badiki to second. There's Perkins and Brock. Johnny Cicotto, car number 42, the BMW M3.
Steve Sober got off to a much better start than his Eggenberger teammate Needswitz. Sober in third place. So one of the Texaco cars up there with the front runners, but he's got Allan Grice right on his hammer, followed by Larry Perkins, Peter Brock, and then Neville Crichton.
Commodores on the pace as they head to the top of Mount Panorama. Problems there for one of the Shell Sierras, had to back off, would have been Neville Crichton. They head down now towards the Castrol sand trap. Andy Rouse leads in the ANZ banking Sierra. Car number 9 as they sweep beneath. Here's them closing up. Andrew Madecki up into second spot. Steve Soper is third. Allan Grice fourth. Larry Perkins is the next one through. Dropping down now through the S's towards the Dipper.
Grice, Perkins and Brock making one heck of a charge up the mountain, but the Sierras have been substantially quicker all week coming down Conrod Straight towards the new Caltex Chase.
Coming down to Toledo turn for the first time, Andy Rouse of Great Britain in the ANZ banking Sierra will lead them. Andrew Madecki, a brilliant start for the young Port Macquarie driver in the Oxo Supercube Sierra. And we'll see whether Soper can pull out of the draft now and pass Madecki as they come up to the top of the roller coaster and down for the first time towards Caltex Chase. Here's Soper making his move on the inside. The field goes through. There's an idea of the new look Caltex Chase area. They swing them back towards the Bridgestone Bridge. Andy Rouse still there, holding second. Andrew Madecki, and right behind him is Steve Soper as the rest of the field streams beneath the bridge, and they come down for the completion of the first lap. Here's Soper making a move, going to put a number on Madecki. That moves him up to second. Grice sits back in fourth, and the Bob Jane T-Mart Commodore as they complete the first lap of the 87 Classic.
Sports Car Championship, where he picked up a fourth and a sixth, and there goes Andy Rouse. We'll come back to Andy Madecki because he is battling at the moment with Allan Grice. When I say there he goes, I think it's more a case of here comes Allan Grice than there goes Andy Rouse.
So true.
2 minutes 23.5 for the leaders on that lap. Still circulating in the same sort of pace. And this is the battle for third and fourth beneath the Bridgestone Bridge, and Rouse is dropping off quite considerably from the leading duo.
Yeah, this is the first time I think he's used these tyres actually in a race, and I think he's probably a little bit worried about their duration. This is something that's probably going through his mind. Oh no, he's got a problem.
He's got big problems. Big problems for Andy Rouse.
And if it's going to happen, that's the worst place it can possibly happen, because he's got to go a complete lap if he was wanting to get to the pits, and I can't see that happening.
It's a long way from pit lane, isn't it? Well, Grice gets a free ride through there to move up one notch in the James Hardy 1000.
Gricey to third. 1 hour and 15 minutes of racing and only 10 vehicles on the lead lap.
Allan Grice limping around the circuit. We believe very, very low on juice.
Yeah, this is a sort of a limp-in job as far as Grice is concerned. He's taken it right to the limit as far as juice is concerned. But I don't like the other dials either. Things do not look too happy there. Grice is having a good look himself at the moment. Allan Grice. What's happening in there?
Looks like some kind of diff or maybe gearbox problems for Allan Grice. He's taking it very easy as he heads down towards the pits. He's got problems. Peter Brock, by the way, or David Parsons, I should say, in the Peter Brock 05 car is in and out of the pits, back on the racetrack. Of course, Soper and Madecki are both back out.
And Grice is unbuckling his seatbelts. He's on his way in, quite obviously. He doesn't want to talk about it right now, and I can't say I could blame him.
And 05, by the way, didn't go back onto the track. They pushed it around the back of the pit lane. So out of business for Peter Brock.
Yeah, gearbox and diff on that car looking a bit empty.
Here he comes, and Richard Hay standing by there to call the action. Take it away, Dick.
Win Percy standing right alongside the car, dives into it. Gracey out, Percy in. All four wheels and tyres being changed again. They're going all over the place. The Bauquet Nissan, incidentally, has just left the pits once again. That was gearbox problems with that car, but Gracey strapping Win into the car. And it's interesting to note that all of these cars have come in early. They're all about 4 laps early. We were told Gracey would come in at 40 laps. The car started up again, straight out of the pits. And maybe that wasn't the quickest of pit stops. But it certainly, everything got done okay, and there didn't seem to be any other problems other than the fact that it needed fuel and tyres.
Thank you, Richard Hay, with that Motorcraft pit report. Win Percy at the wheel of the Chickadee, Bob Jane T-Mart Commodore. He heads up the hill. As the second of the Oxo Supercube Sierras finds its way past on the inside.
The performance belies the gauges, but good luck to him if it keeps going.
Certainly, if anybody can nurse a car, Win Percy can, apart from throwing it at the bank, as we all know here on Friday. He's very well established for the fact that he's very gentle on a car.
Skyline, George Fury in the pits. Seaton's been in and out by this stage, managing their pit stops well. Was in 7th place, George Fury. Of course, the lead is changing all the time now as cars come in for their first pit stops. In fact, the number 7 Eggenberger Texaco car with Klaus Niedzwitz is in fact in the race lead at the moment, yet to pit. But I see they're getting ready over there to do it. So we expect to see him in at any moment. But for right now on the track, it's Niedzwitz in front.
And we're watching Win Percy now, doing his first lap in the car. It'll be interesting to see the Sierra, one of the Sierras, the Eggenberger Sierras, not too far ahead of him at the moment. Interesting to see how he copes with that. Got a fair amount of traffic to contend with.
Now, who have we had in? We've had Madeki, Soper, they've both been in. Grice, Fury, Seaton has been in. Brock has been in, and McLeod has been in. So Richards and Chicotto have not been in yet, and just awaiting on confirmation, but you will certainly find Needswitz leads. Chicotto and Richards will be running second and third.
Yeah, the BMWs, of course, will go longer without a pit stop than anything else. A, they're non-turbo, and B, they're a very small, efficient engine.
We saw the two Sierras.
Having said that, we've got one with his armour, and that looks to me like a problem for the Winnie Voigt car. He's got his armour, and that car has slowed right down.
Yes, he's headed towards the pit area. We'll have to wait and see what the problem is. Meantime, Win Percy, car number 2. Getting back on the pace after a exceptionally slow down lap by Allan Grice after problems running out of gas, or almost out of gas. They're coming up on the Garry Rush, Tony Noski, Kalari Transport Commodore. And they run it out side by side, heading up the mountain. Let's recap the current positions for you on our Castrol scoreboard. Klaus Ludwig leads the great race on lap 39. Andrew Madeki runs second in the Oxo Supercube Ford. Third is Steve Soper in the second of the Eggenberger cars. Fourth is Win Percy, now in the Bob Jane T-Mart Commodore. And fifth place is Jimmy Richards in the JBS BMW. Lap 42, 161, the 87 James Hardy 1000. And problems already for Win Percy in the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore as we take race cam. As you can see, the car is running very, very warm indeed. The water leveled down completely. Percy has still been persevering with the car since he took over from the pit stop. And as we recap for you, going into the last break, Klaus Ludwig continues to lead the 87 Great Race. Andrew Madeki in the Oxo Supercube car is second. Steve Soper is third in the second of the Eggenberger cars. Then this Commodore, the Bob Jane T-Mart's car with Win Percy at the wheel, followed by Jimmy Richards, Johnny Chicotto, Glenn Seaton, Fury, Francevic and Fangio.
Now the situation with your car, we were looking earlier on at some fairly graphic shots on Seven's Bob Jane race cam, and we saw some needles that were hanging up there in the red, and I understand you were getting a low water light, but somewhere along the line the computation isn't right.
Yeah, that's right. The needle that's in the red is the gearbox temperature. That's not unusual. Of course, a race like this, we start with a brand new box with tight clearances and new bearings, etc. And it's not unusual that the temperature starts high, and as the race goes on, the temperature comes down. The water temperature light, the low water light on the left that you saw flashing, there we can see it on screen. I don't know, but it doesn't look like it's flashing. Yes, it is still flashing. That indicates that the water level in the head is low, but the water temperature is not high. So the only thing we can put it down to is a faulty connection.
Well, Grice, the situation now is the pace car has moved away and the race is back on. Would you at all like to have a chat with Win, because we can probably arrange it for you through our Bob Jane race cam?
Yeah, I guess it'll take him a lap though to get himself back in the swing of things. He's now got to get the car straight back up to race speed and get past and try and stay with those Fords. And unfortunately, the Sierras, with the enormous amount of grunt they've got in a straight line, it makes them easier for them to pass the cars.
Nevertheless, you must be really thrilled at the performance of the car. You're up to third. The car was the short wheelbase version as little as 24 hours ago. It's flying.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the motor car. Obviously, that blinking light's a worry, but we can only put it down to about faulty connection.
Well, let's ask the man himself. Win Percy, what's the situation at the moment?
Well, I believe the situation is that we should stay behind the file for one lap after the flashing lights go off. Your guys are now displaying green flags. Now, I don't really want to take the risk of overtaking. That's the problem.
Yeah, with green flags, it's got to mean go, though, Win.
For sure?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going.
Go for it, Winnie.
Well, that's the best cue I've ever seen. When the boss says go for it, you can get stuck into it.
Well, we'll find out. So we follow Win Percy in the Bob Jane T-Mart Commodore.
Well, green flags mean go in any book in the world, and he's going for it.
They certainly are.
Grice, I'm really surprised, to be quite frank, that you've been able to get the car back in the same sort of shape as you started the weekend. Have you noticed any little tweaks or traits in the car that weren't there when you started?
No, the Hardy's Hero lap, the car was certainly not tracking properly. It was going from one side of the road to the other down Conrod, but that was a settling that was taking place with the new chassis rail that we put in, and a wheel alignment fixed that.
Robbie Francevic to the pits, the 1986 Australian Touring Car Champion. He hands over to Ludwig Finua on our Motorcraft pit report, and Goofy about to have his first attack on Mount Panorama.
Yeah, well, that's a good time to pit, really, because he hasn't lost his lap and the car's a bunch, so he'll get out and the bunch he'll have some clear road when he gets out there.
The other information right behind that, you'll see that Jimmy Richards has come in as well, Alan and Neil.
Well, that's
held him up for maybe 10 seconds, I would think.
Yeah, that's a little car like that. 10 seconds is very, very valuable. A bit of a miscue there, I think.
Well, we'll see how good the stop is. We've got the clocks on them. Frank Gardner presiding at the front of the car. Tony Longhurst strapping in. The combination looked so strong in the Castrol 500 at Sandown only a couple of weeks back, and then right at the end it was an engine failure that brought them undone. Are they bolting on D5 Pirellis? Can't quite see the numbers from where I am, but if that's the case, then that's I should think a reasonably soft tyre for this situation.
Yeah, we're running a pretty soft tyre. I had to ease off at one stage and bring them back to life a bit, and they did. They came right back to life, and I was able to get back into 23s again.
Well, they've been there now for 35 seconds, plus what Mike mentioned before, which we think was about 10 seconds. Tony Longhurst, finger at the ready to fire the BM back to life.
Looks like they've topped her up with Castrol and now can't get it fired.
They've got a problem.
Yep. 49 seconds. This is precious time. You cannot afford to lose 10 seconds in a race like this. Now, what is going on here, Grice?
Well, they're trying to break the dry brake system. It's maybe they're thinking that they've pressurised the system and it's flooding the engine.
So they're trying to release the air build-up, the pressure in the thing.
Yeah.
So we should explain that one side is fuel intake and the other side is for vent, and normally you have a vent bottle attached.
Yes, it is. It makes our 19-second stop look pretty good.
Yeah, you're looking really flash. 1 minute 17. And remember, of course, that Jim had done such a splendid job to really climb back through the field with amazing speed. This is very, very dangerous, tipping fuel like this all over pit lane.
Yeah, it certainly is.
They were going so well because they had managed to catch and pass the Johnny Cicotto CBM BMW M3. Now a minute 38 passes in the pits. And still no sign of a vent bottle. I don't know whether I'm misinterpreting the situation here. That's a little bit of soapy water to try and dilute the fuel, which is obviously a smart, safe and sensible thing to do.
When there's petrol around like that, I'm quite happy to be up here on your commentary.
Yeah, absolutely. Safer to be in a red jacket on a day like today, I think.
I noticed Win is hanging on to one of the Works Sierras out there. It'd be interesting to know what the times are, but he's...
well, we'll get those for you. Just before we do leave you, Grice, I'm sure you've got a very kind word for those lads at the TAFE College that work so hard to get your car back in shape.
Yeah, me and many other crews here, they've done a superb job. It's not the fact that they just tack the cars together to give you some old rubbishy box to go out and race with. They put you back with a completely straight motor car. And then my guys have made it into a race car from that. The two teams have done a superb job with my car.
Yeah, they really do a great job. And Jim Richards, should I say Tony Longhurst, now rejoins the race. Thanks for your comments, Alan. Thanks for dropping by, and I hope all goes well for you this afternoon. And you don't have any fuel problems.
Or water problems. Thank you.
Thanks, Grice.
Of 161, the James Hardy 1000 coming to you live on the 7 Network across Australia and New Zealand. There's our third place driver, Win Percy, in the Chickadee Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore. Win at the wheel, taking our race cam up towards the cutting at BP. And Win Percy, of course, joining Allan Grice. Had an absolutely horrendous wreck here on Friday. They've been able to get the car back, thanks to the TAFE apprentices. And I tell you what, Allan Grice could not have a more capable driver at the wheel of his car today. Win Percy is a total professional.
43-year-old Win Percy nearly didn't get involved in motorsport. He broke his neck on the eve of his first race. In 1975, a fully recovered Win finished runner-up in the British Touring Car Championship, and he was bridesmaid again in 76. Percy joined Scotsman Tom Walkinshaw's team in 1980. Mazda was the choice, and the Weymouth-led Foot collected 3 British titles on the trot. By 85, Walkinshaw had installed Win in his Jaguars and Rovers as permanent co-driver. He should have won the European title last year for Rover by 1 digit, but FISA's maths men gave the crown to BMW's Roberto Ravaglia. Walkinshaw had his yellow and blue Commodore ready for 1987 and the World Championship, but alas, it was not to be seen on the track. Percy therefore concentrated on the odd Jaguar sports car outing and a stint in a Raz Sierra for the British Championship at Silverstone, which he duly won. So when you think of pros, Win's the go.
The man who's running second in the great race for 1987 is, of course, Win Percy, carrying out Bob Jane T-Mart's race cam. Well, Win, I reckon on Friday you had no idea that you'd be running second today.
No, I think the guys at the technical college did an unbelievable job of the car. I mean, it really was very extensively damaged. And here we are in a competitive car. Fantastic.
How competitive is the car compared to the hot laps you had on Friday?
Well, if anything, I think it's settled down. I'm not used to the power steering that Allan has on this car, and I must admit it took me a couple of days to really feel at home. And then when I thought I was at home, of course, I went and stuffed it, which was fantastic.
Coming down at the bottom into the main straight again, and of course the pace car being out, a lot of drivers fell into a trap there when they weren't quite sure, I don't think, of how the regulations applied.
No, I think you're right. I was waiting to complete at least 1 lap after the pace car had put its lights out, which is customary. But suddenly the green flags appeared at the top of the hill, and I'm afraid I was told to go for it.
Well, as Grice says, green means go.
He's bloody right.
Okay, we'll let you go. Thanks, Win, for the brief chat. We'll come back to you later.
Thank you.
Well, Win Percy really does have his hands full now, because I'd expected to have seen him got away a little bit, but he hasn't. And I think he's going to have to struggle quite hard to hold on to that third place while he's got a full load of fuel.
As I said earlier, I don't think Allan Grice could have picked a more talented co-driver.
He might have questioned that on Friday.
Huh?
He might have questioned that on Friday.
Yes, I don't think all Grice did was really just shrug the shoulders and say, well, there's not much you can do about it.
Well, let's face it, he did exactly the same thing, poor old Win, as Alan Moffat did last year with Peter Brock's car. So, it happens to the very best, and of course Win Percy is one of those.
Grice has been a few himself too, hasn't he?
Yes, he's had the 1 or 2 offs, but he's a hard charger, and Win's times are almost identical to Brock's, and that has to be great, particularly if you're going to try and force the pace up the front. Andrew Madecki doesn't enjoy that luxury. Donnie Smith, who owns the Oxo Supercube team, Don's the first to admit he can't stay to the times set by Andrew Madecki, so every time he jumps into the car, the times fall away just a little, and that's a problem that, of course, hardy drivers have faced over the years when they had their once-a-year race. It's changed this year just a little.
I must say, though, Mike, it has all the ingredients of tremendous drama as this race builds up, with the Singleton car there, the Singleton Commodore, defending, if you like, Australia against the European onslaught.
Once again, we follow Win Percy, car number 2, on lap 75, along pit straight, and now heading up the mountain again. Win Percy in the Allan Grice Commodore, still running second in the great race. And there goes young Winston hurrying up the hill. It's just incredible to me that their car is still running so smoothly, the rebuilt car after the accident on Friday.
Not only that, of course, still running with the temperature gauge flashing, which it's been doing now for some 2 hours, and still apparently going no slower. It seems to have run into no problems at all, and it's looking good for a strong finish.
was interesting that Andrew Madico went past him a minute or two ago and has now gone away from him, but of course he's some way back, so he's got nothing to worry about as far as he's concerned.
Great pictures from the Bob Jane T-Mart's race cam. And I think you could expect to see Win Percy and Grice come up as a formidable combination next week in the Touring Car World Championship round at Calder Park.
Very much
in Melbourne
so.
On that high-banked Thunderdome.
Very much so.
The Commodores were just sensational to watch there.
And Grice would be the only man in the race, would he not, apart from possibly Cross, who'd have any experience of the Thunderdome.
Yes, although I have a feeling that the European boys will catch on quickly, Richard.
Win Percy was telling me he'd absolutely terrified him. Grice took him around there in a road car and he just could not believe how fast a car would go around the banking. But Grice, of course, competed in the 300 in America.
So that car goes through, looking at the Grice Percy car and how it has climbed up and gone down and then, of course, gone back into second spot on our progress chart. Keeping in mind that it really hasn't been out of the top 5 all day. They had a lightning fast pit stop. And Win Percy, because of his vast experience in very heavy cars, is making life very much easier for his co-driver, Allan Grice, here today.
Very, very, very consistent performance by Win. And it just proves the point that Tom Walkinshaw made.
Trouble here for the Brian Callaghan, Barry Graham Mobile Concrete Pumping Services Commodore. Now this car was running 14th and Brian Callaghan was headed for the pit area and it has just stopped. What wretched luck for those two guys. I know there'll be a lot of oval track followers around Australia who have tuned in to see the fortunes of Callaghan and Graham and Tony Noski and Garry Rush here today. It looks like their race is run. Win Percy about to be harried by a BMW M3 across the top of the mountain as they head up to West End Bend. Now heading to Reed Park. Watch just how smooth Percy is here across the top of Mount Panorama. Particularly the next turn as it comes up. This is where he went off. He came through here on Friday, caught the back wheel out there, flicked him around and straight off into the concrete wall. Win Percy is just trying to limp around. We might be able to see if we can get to Win in just a second for a chat.
Shades of Tasmania there in the Simmons playing through.
The dramas continue. In the James Hardy 1000, the second place, Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore. Win Percy at the wheel. Came to almost an abrupt stop on top of the mountain. Fortunately, he hit a downhill patch. I don't know if Win's listening to us at the moment. Win, what seems to be the problem?
It sounds pretty serious, whatever it is.
Well, he shut it down by the sound of it. In fact, if he has, it doesn't sound healthy at all.
It sounds like the bottom's about to drop out of the car. Can't get any real indication here. Bill O'Brien goes past along with one of the Oxo Sierras.
It sounds very like the diff, or the diff temperature was right off the gauge, and I think that's possibly where it's coming from, but it's a question of wait and see.
More lights than a Christmas tree on the dash of the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore.
And reminds me of the Australian touring car race in Tasmania where Grice ran the car and all the gauges were right off the clock. And it looked a fairly similar state of affairs to that.
There's the number 2 Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore heading back to pit lane. Whether or not Wilkinson just coasted down through the Caltex chase. Hear the noise coming out of the car. Our crews are already down there. Just while they're waiting for the car to come in, I'm sure that Gianfranco Brancatelli and of course Johnny Cicotto won't be terribly happy about
News from the
stewards of the meeting, which I'll read to you as soon as we get this this pit stop. I think it'll be a final pit stop for the number 2 Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore. It would appear though, yes, that says it all. Allan Grice stands just watching the car roll in to the pits. Win Percy gave the race a great shake. So too did Allan Grice in those hectic opening laps. There's Les Small, they're on the scene. So too are our pit reporters.
Yes, Mike, Win Percy gets out of the car and immediately the lads all duck to the back of the vehicle. And you've probably got a better idea of what was going on from our Bob Jane T-Mart's race cam than I have. But quite obviously there's a terminal problem with either the differential or axles or both. Yeah, Gricey's onto it. Win's just to my right. We'll have a chat with him as soon as he's finished with Allan. Win, any indication of what the problem is?
Yeah, it's the axle.
Right. Well, it's as simple as that. Axle failure in the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore. You'll notice if we just come round to the right a little bit more that the rear end is just covered in oil. If we look down inside there, we just bob down a little bit and look at that. What a mess. Boy, you can have some drama in this great race. The top of the mountain is a pretty cruel piece of road. Now the lads have a very big job in front of them. They've got to disassemble the hub, start fiddling around with the rear end. I'm not quite sure how long that process is likely to take, I should say. And they're going to be in here for quite some time. Incidentally, the lead Texaco Ford Sierra came in just a couple of moments back, and Pierre Dieudonné handed back over to Steve Soper. The stop was about 38 seconds long.
And they retained the lead despite that stop now.
Yeah, and they're doing a fine job. I had Pierre lined up a couple of moments ago, and we'll go back there shortly and we'll have a chat with him, and he's very happy with the car, although it's got a small problem in the front end, he said. We'll enlighten ourselves on that just a little bit later on, but this really is bad news. We'll go for the Bob Jane car. They've done so well. When you consider the heartbreak involved in taking the front off their car on Friday, Win is a thorough and true professional, and he was looking forward to a good result at the mountain. Of course, he finished, I think, second in 1985. So it's very disappointing indeed.
And the biggest attribute in motorsport, and to get started and to carry on in motorsport, is to learn how to get up off the ground, because you're sure as hell get knocked over a lot of times.
And Brock is at the wheel of this car. Of course, the 05 car failed to survive the early laps here today in the James Hardy 1000. But Brock, of course, cross-ended for the second dealer team car, took over the wheel and has done a fairly lengthy stint in it. But we're about to see another driver change. Peter McLeod drove the early laps here. By the way, both the Eggenberger Texaco cars with Soper and Niedzwitz are now one lap clear of the rest of the field.
Well, the situation now with 20 seconds down in this stop, Wilco, is that David Parsons gets into car number 10. Hope they don't scratch it. And Peter Brock jumps out. So it doesn't look as though John Crook's going to have a gallop at Mount Panorama today. Peter McLeod having done the first stint, as you quite rightly pointed out. They changed front brake pads just a few moments ago. George Smith just down in front of me here. 40 seconds gone. It's a pretty good stop when you consider they've put pads in. Tim releases the jacks and away they go. 45 seconds, red hot stop from the dealer team. Yes, 12 seconds gone, and it is torrential down here at the moment. The rain's driving sideways, freezing cold. Steve Soper still in the car, Pierre Dieudonné standing by, and the track is now very, very wet, and it's gale force. Just on 30 seconds was the stop then for Soper, and as you can see, they've gone for a full groove wet tyre. There's pandemonium down here at the moment. They're now standing by for their next car. So with 132 laps down in the James Hardy 1000 of 1987, we have got one very wet race on our hands. The leader.
I'm not saying it's blowing a gale, ladies and gentlemen, but it almost blew our 3 lap scorers off the balcony roof here in front of us. And there they are, assisting our race score people.
They've forgotten lunch.
Yes. And if there was any refuse on the ground down below, they'll find it at Orange sometime tomorrow.
The flagpoles along the main straight bending almost double at some points with the strength of this wind. It is just phenomenal. There's one of the Oxo cars. It's had it. Which one is it? It's 34.
34, yeah.
That's the Giddings car.
Yeah, he's clobbered the side there fairly hard.
And also the pace car is out on the track. Let's go to Neil Crompton.
The yellow flags are out at the moment. I think I just saw the pace car going out. It's actually hailing here at present. It's freezing cold, and we're standing by for the other Texaco Sierra. And if you've ever seen some sensational pit activity, you've never seen anything until what you're going to see in the next few minutes, because the dealer team are getting ready, the JPS team are getting ready.
This is
just gone out, so it's a very interesting situation.
Chicotto's car has got some very heavy damage to the front, and here's the reason why the pace car's out.
This is the reason up on the top part of the mountain.
Yes, one of the Toyotas, car number 91. That's the Faulkner entry.
I think it's both of the Toyotas,
Is it?
actually, Wilco. Look that way to me. Also, the Team New Zealand Nissan car, the Bajan Bauquet car.
Chicotto with trouble as well.
Limping back to the pits.
Yeah, he's got one wheel that's virtually right off.
That's the 24 car, the Bajan Bauquet car in the background, the 91 Toyota, and there's another car here about to get collected. Oh,
that's the Bob Fangio car.
Yep.
That's going to stop it completely. Even the pace car won't. Oh, yes, it will.
There's room for it to get through. So long as there's room, the pace car will stay out. That's why the pace car's here, so a race can still continue, albeit under controlled conditions.
Still can't identify the car on the right-hand side of the circuit. The third of the cars involved in the major part of this incident. The Fangio car you saw also was involved there on the way through, but is still moving, pushing the Bauquet car off the infield now. The 91 car, John Faulkner and Mike Quinn, inoperable. Chicotto wending his way slowly. Look at the front left wheel. Bent 90-degree angle.
That's the first of the Toyotas.
Looks like 91.
Bang, there's the next one, straight in its
Car
torn
90.
wheel off. Next one,
Bauquet.
Bauquet, maybe oil on the road up there. He's trying to steer the thing. The wheel has run off the other Toyota, and Bauquet at this stage gets the shimmies on and props at the top of the hill as they come up over the top of West End Bend. Boom! Whoop.
That was the Chicotto car.
That was Johnny Chicotto.
We pick up on Peter Brock, car number 10, a man who has won this race 8 times. And Peter Brock, at the moment, is running third, with, as we believe, a cloud over the front-running Ford Texaco Sierras.
This could indeed be his 9th win, but let's not worry too much about that for the moment.
And the World Touring Car Championship for 1987 has arrived at Bathurst this weekend. The 1987 James Hardy 1000 will go to Steve Soper of Great Britain in the Texaco Ford Sierra, and he takes the checkered flag. Second place will officially go to his teammate Klaus Ludwig, who will be 2 laps down in the number 7 Eggenberger Ford Texaco Sierra, and third place will go to Australia's Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. Great scenes here at Bathurst as the team now awaits the arrival of Klaus Ludwig, the runner-up in the race. And of course, a special cheer being reserved for Peter Brock, who's done a great job taking over the number 10 car with David Parsons, John Crook and Peter McLeod to pick up third.